Hi, this is Alice Bull from ScrapBookWonderland.com and the ScrapHappy membership group. In this process video, I'll show you how I created this layout during the load challenge. For day 20 of load 218, the prompt asked us to think about an accomplishment. So naturally, my mind went to fishing, of course, because that's what we all think of when we think of an accomplishment, right? Yeah, okay, maybe not the world's biggest accomplishment, but this time I actually caught a fish when I went ice fishing, so I was pretty proud of that and pretty surprised actually, because really, when we've gone ice fishing before, I rarely catch a fish. Most of ice fishing is about sitting around freezing your butt off. Thankfully, I caught one this time, so I had a great photo and some supporting photos of me actually bringing the fish out of the hole. So I started with a piece of watercolor paper and I started adding a little bit of color to this page. I had decided I wanted to use those enamel dots. They're kind of larger enamel dots and I liked the color tones with the photos that I had. And I thought it would be cool to have a background that kind of emulated those colors. So I muck around with the watercolors for a while. I am definitely not a watercolor pro, as you can probably tell from what you're seeing right now. But in the end, it turns out that it looked pretty good. And, after I softened it by removing some of the color with the paper towels, it looked a lot better. And I knew that part of it would be covered up. And so by the time I added the details, it was just going to make an interesting background. So while I was waiting for the paper to dry, I kind of played around with my arrangement of the photos and I picked some embellishments that were going to go with it. To go with the gray and blue kind of greeny tones that I have for the enamel dots, I really wanted to make something that popped, and being that my gloves were bright orange, I chose to go with the orange. So I would matte the photo with some orange, and then I chose some orange letters from Bella Boulevard. So I wanted to create a feeling of some layers and some texture without adding too many layers. So I have these flat stickers and I thought that I would add some of the squares to kind of pull a bit more of the elements into the page. And I liked kind of how that worked, but I kind of had to fuss around with them for a while. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to use these enamel dots, I better figure out what I'm doing with them. So I started by putting them all on in pretty rows that kind of are all like one color in each row. And then I kind of started counting my dots. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to run out of these colors. I'm going to have to mix and match. And I thought, okay, well, I'll change a few here. And then I decided that I didn't like the look of that. So I started kind of mix and matching them all throughout. And once I kind of rearranged them so they didn't all go super matchy-matchy, I liked that a lot better. And I think that turned out pretty good. I tried to keep the angle kind of on a consistent angle as I went across, and I noticed later that one of my dots is a little bit wonky. I must have laid it down a little funny, but I'll fix it later. So now, as you can see, I wasn't 100% happy with how those square frame pieces went, so they had to be played with and mucked around a little bit, and I decided to add a few more for some more layers and some more texture, and I was intent on using this little orange arrow. I totally love arrows. This is a metal one and I think it's super cute, and you will see me try to put that arrow on this page a million times. But for now, I really like how the layers with the black and white frames kind of just adds a little bit of pop, but it's really subtle, and I was really happy with how those turned out in the end. But I tell you, getting there, it was like, try it here, try it like this, put it like that. Oh, yeah, there's that lovely orange arrow. No, it didn't go there. So I decided to move on from the arrow and work on my title. And I love these orange letters. Actually, it's really hard to find orange letters. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe you haven't looked for orange letters before. But I write down my title on the sticky note and then I count to make sure I have all the letters, because I don't need the same kind of problem I had with the enamel dots. And I start laying out the title on my ruler. Well, actually rulers, because I like to lay the titles out on the clear rulers, and then I can move them around and I can really see the spacing and how the title is going to interact on the layout. So I lay the title out and that looks really good, and I start thinking about other embellishments I can add to the page to kind of give it that finishing touch. And I still have a few of those large enamel dots in multiple colors, so I thought, oh, maybe those will go up in the top left corner of this layout. So I kind of lay them out there to kind of give myself time to think about how they're going to go. I start placing them down and I just can't figure out how to put them down and make them look good. Like, I move them and I move them and I move them and I move them, and by this point I'm like, okay, these things aren't even going to stick anymore. I'm probably going to need to use a glue dot to stick them down. So I finally decided to do like a little triad of pieces, and I thought, I have some more, so I've got some other smaller ones that I add below, bringing a little bit of that orange down into the lower part of the layout. So now you've got the mat with the orange, you've got the title with the orange, and then there's just that little hint of orange underneath those photos. And I kind of like how that draws you across there a little bit. So now I have a little frame, and I've decided I'm going to put a piece of paper in behind it so I can write something on that little piece of paper and add this little frame to the page. I think I've had that frame in my stash forever. There's just a few little random pieces, and I really love them, but I have a hard time using them. I don't know if I'm hoarding them or what, or, if I just haven't found the right thing for them yet. But I decided I'm going to now add that frame, and then I will add some journaling. So I actually draw some lines to add my journaling on. And you can see the top of my head in there because I have to lean in as I do my writing. Nope, need a few more lines so I can finish off my thoughts, and it actually looks really good. I really like how the journaling added to the page and kind of fills in that space. And once again, we see the return of that orange metal arrow. I was so determined to get this onto that page, and I just could not make it work. I decided I needed a few more enamel dots, and then the page looked great, so I decided it was done. So here's the finished page with the watercolor background, the enamel dots in the corner of the layout, and then you can see all of the little details that are added, and it's really not a lot. You have the sticker frames, the enamel frame with the paper in the background, and then you have the enamel dots, and that's kind of it other than the title. I think the lesson for me with this layout is to think outside of the box with your tools and with your ideas for pages. Because catching a fish might not be the biggest accomplishment, but it was something that I wanted to celebrate, so it made a good topic for this page. And I love how those enamel dots make me think of fish scales, and the colors are perfect for this page. So think outside the box and consider how you can use even the most simplest of embellishments in a new and creative way. So if you thought this was fun, then I hope you'll consider giving one of the load challenges, like the layout a day challenges, a try. I find them super inspiring, and I find myself telling stories that I never thought that I would tell, and it makes it for a really fun experience in working with a group and doing more scrapbooking than I could ever believe that I could accomplish in a month. You can find out more at scraphappy.org, and happy scrapping!